Love one another. That is the commandment that sums up the reason for your multiple existences on the earth plane. Love one another. As we've said many times, you are, in the final analysis, one another. You are all stemming from the oneness of God. You are God in the action of improving him, her, itself. Nothing in the universe is static. Nothing is in stasis. Nothing is unmoving. The universal law is growth. And God, too, is in a state of perennial, perpetual, ongoing growth. How can something perfect grow and become more perfect? That is only a conundrum in human terms. You are each, as we have said before, in the process of becoming consciously God. Seeds that have been scattered and planted, that have been nurtured, that have been fertilized, that have been plagued with weeds and choked by pollution, and yet triumphant, growing ultimately into your wholeness. Along that road to wholeness is the exploration of the darkness of fear, which is illusion, to uncover the light of love, which is reality. Now, love is the energy of the universe. God is indeed love. In your self-willed, self-imposed separation from your understanding that you are a part of God, it's not really a separation from God. There can be no separation from God. It is only a separation of yourself, so that that part of yourself, the ego, mind, consciousness that you think of as yourself, believes itself to be separated from God, believes itself to be separated from other human beings, believes itself to be separate from all else in its environment. All of that is part of the illusion of separation, the illusion of isolation, the illusion of loneliness. As you plunge into the darkness, as you experience the feeling of separation, you immediately try in your blind and fumbling way to heal that separation. It is your instinct. It is the muffled and muted word of guidance from your own higher nature, the other half of the equation, the part of yourself that is not blinded by the dark. Relationships, and we include all kinds of human relationships, not simply love and romantic relationships, although that's going to be our focus this evening. Relationships are the means to healing. The fact that they are often divisive, wounding, painful, murderous, is all a part of the healing process, ironically, because you are here to explore fear in all of its manifestations, all of the facets of that black diamond called fear. And you use many lives, many perspectives, many points of view to examine fear bit by bit, piece by piece, as it enters your life, as it sullies the waters of your life, as it separates you one from the other, as it blocks you life after life after life from your true purpose. You must explore that. It is your reason for being here. In the process of that exploration of all of the relationships and all of the faces of fear, you gain enlightenment. You grow. You refine your spirit. And each time you withdraw from an incarnation, you, that greater you that is sending out all these shoots of identity into all the multiple dimensions of reality, you return more whole, more complete, more experienced, more understanding, however difficult the life may have been, however frustrating, however it ended, badly or well. There has been growth on the level of the higher nature. So each time you withdraw a pseudopod from a reality, the whole is made more whole. The perfect is made more perfect. We ask you to step back a few paces from this life so that your perspective can widen. It is important to recognize that the relationships that you deal with in this life, with mother, with father, with siblings, with friends, with enemies, with lovers, that those relationships cannot and are not separated from the whole. They did not begin in this life. They will not conclude in this life. In your many involvements in incarnations throughout history, male, female, good, bad, black, white, in ancient times, in modern times, you've explored and are exploring all facets of reality. You are exploring all of the faces of fear, and you are not alone. It is not a lonely path that you travel life to life to life. You are always in the company of friends, of comrades, of fellow classmates in the ongoing school of human life. You are related to each other in so many ways that you form a webwork of connections among you. Now, we've said this many, many times before, but very briefly, let us say again that if you will picture all of these lives as a tree of many branches, on each branch is a cluster of blossoms. Each blossom is a life. The lives clustered around a central issue, so that through the various forms you take and the personalities you adopt, you are able to explore a specific fear from every possible angle, to experience it. With you in that journey are comrades who play many roles in respect to you as you do to them. You are all each other's brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and friends and enemies. And even the enemies are your closest friends, for they are the ones that most clearly delineate the problems and the issues and the fears that you have to deal with. Always, it is a gift of love, because love is the only reality. And so as you stand back from this bit of your life, look at those you have been involved with and are being involved with, and see that they have been with you before and you with them. See that you have begun together, you have traveled together, you will complete together. Now, again, this life is unlike any other life that you have lived as a human being. You who have willingly joined the path to your wholeness, to understanding, to your oneness with Christ. Oneness with Christ. You will never repeat what has already been done. The incarnations that you explore from here on will be in what you see now as the future. You are completing. Your class is graduating. And you are indeed classmates. The class in the school that you are graduating from is the school of Christ, who appeared on this earth in human form as Jesus. Christ who spoke of love, who indicated much more clearly than the remaining information would lead you to believe now, what the plan was, what the true salvation was, the value of love in your life and in the universal life, who created for you an image of triunity, of completeness, body, mind, spirit. He spoke in parables and analogies. He created images for you to strive for. Over the past 2,000 years, you have been exploring your own separation from love, from the message of the Christ. You have dwelt in darkness. You have pulled darkness around you like a shroud. You have over and over again condemned yourself to death, which is the separation from love. You have apparently forgotten the true meaning of the message of Christ. Look at the history, and we're focusing on the Christian tradition now. Look at the history of this religion founded upon a message of love and transcendence. A message of a personal inner transformation unique to each individual that goes through it. See how that word has been distorted. How you have tried to bludgeon others into your beliefs. How you have defended each religious redoubt with passionate zeal, supporting one tiny scrap of the truth against all of the other scraps that, when united and separated from the nonsense that has grown around them, complete the picture and tell the whole truth. The lesson you have been learning is the underside of the reality, and it had to be explored. We say what we have said, not in condemnation, because that was the plan. The Christ knew at the time the message was given that it would be distorted and denied. When the apparent sacrifice was made, he knew that that message would be lost. Because the way to growth and to salvation first travels through the experience of the valley of the shadow, and the shadow is fear. Each and every one of you have explored that duality within yourselves, the love and the fear, the light and the darkness. Now you are come to a time of completion and renewal, of the death of the old and the rebirth into your own triunity, when you finally realize that Jesus the Christ was here for you to emulate and to become. Now you're receiving Christ energy. Now the process is completing itself. And what is Jesus the Christ? Man and God united. And who are you? Human and God uniting. And you are not doing this alone. You are not doing this in separation. And so you need to be able to look at your many relationships with a new vision, with a new understanding, with a new perspective. This is the long-delayed goal. The relationships in your life, those that are present now and those that will be coming into being in your life, the relationships that mean the most to you are the relationships that you have cleaned away the karma, brought balance. The relationships of one united within himself and herself, uniting with another, and creating a whole greater than the sum of the parts, a whole finally undistorted by fear, by anger, by jealousy, by all of the negative faces of fear that you've been exploring. So this life is a climax. Now we want to say to you this, and we've said this before. Whenever we tell people that they are involved in the very last life of a long and involved time of being, that they are completing a task, that they are graduating, well, they look inside themselves, and by and large they say, well, that sounds very nice, but it must not apply to me, because I look inside and I see, well, I'm very far from whole, very far from having ended all of my fears, very far from having perfected all of my imperfections, very far from being a creature totally devoted to love. What you're seeing when you look in is what remains of the illusion. When you have created this role to play, this part, in the many-charactered play that you have been enacting, you create a character that is consistent, as any great playwright does. There are 1, 2, 3 related issues that you are dealing with in this life to bring into completion and into wholeness and complete your course of study. Those are real. They're illusion, but they're real in the terms that they are what you're focusing on in this life. Other areas that you look on when you look within yourself that seem to you to be out of balance and evidences of weakness are not true, not real. They are simply part of the setting, part of the character flaws that you've built into this particular persona. As you complete dealing with the true issues of this life, you truly do graduate, and that which is illusion vanishes into illusion. You are not what you think you are, but something far greater and far closer to completion, to wholeness. So is it with all of you who are on the path, who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree and are completing the process in this life. Now, again, parenthetically, all of those other people who form the other end of the polarity that is being examined in this life, what of them? Are they forever doomed? Certainly not. We live in a world and a reality of many dimensions. Every spirit graduates in a reality as real to them as this is to you. So now you must look upon the relationships that have formed you and deformed you in this life. Look beyond the outer appearance. You know, as you go through this process, you are truly changing. You know, as you come into wholeness and into balance and you become the triune human being, you're not Homo sapiens anymore. You're not that out of balance, dualistic character. Your perceptions are becoming greater. Your understanding is deepening and widening. You are truly expanding your consciousness. In that expanded consciousness, you must begin to take a wider view of what is going on in your life now. It will at first be difficult for you, and you'll keep forgetting about it. And, you'll tend to look at things through the same blinkered eyes that you have. But then every time you just remind yourself and step back again and look again. you're going to be able to see increasingly the webwork that connects you with others. You're going to be able to see increasingly the love that will often hide behind opposition from those who are setting up issues for you to deal with, for them, for their own sake and for yours. You are more than you used to be, more capable of seeing and understanding. As you grow and accept your wholeness, it is as though for the first time in human history, human beings were accepting adulthood. And that is true for each and every one of you. It is the frightened child that you have kept within yourselves life after life that has prevented you from accepting wholeness and adulthood. Adulthood in the sense that you are coming closer to your own recognition of yourself as God. You are becoming Christ human beings. And you need to begin to behave as though you are becoming Christ human beings. Trust yourself to see more clearly. As you enter into this stage of accepting adulthood, you are going to be dealing with the figures in your life, particularly those early figures that triggered the fear conditions for this life, most particularly parents. Whether they are living or not, you are going to be coming into peace with them. You are going to be forgiving them as you forgive yourself. And for some of you, you may hear that and you'll say, never. And for others, you'll hear that and you'll say, fine, but how? Don't worry about it. It is a part of your task. You are equipped to do it. And when the time comes, you will do it, because it is necessary for you to accept that, to free yourself, to accept your adulthood, to accept the responsibility for your life that is the hallmark of freedom. Now, when the parents trigger issues in your life, and very often for women it's the male parent that triggers the issues, and vice versa for the men, but not always, and sometimes it's both parents. And on a very rare occasion it won't be either parent, but some other adult and influential authority figure in the early life. But it happens early, and it happens at a time when you are the most vulnerable, the most recently separated from your wholeness, your strength, your recognition of yourself as a part of God, and in the very depth of your helplessness as a fledgling human being. Therefore, everything negative that happens to you is magnified tenfold, 100-fold, because you are so helpless to do anything about it. And so you, the ego mind, hides it all away, locks it away in your heart in a dark closet, and you begin to avoid that closet. And then you stuff more into the closet because the triggering that was done by the parents is followed by a teacher and a friend, and followed later perhaps by a lover or a husband and a wife. The line from father and mother to husband, wife, or male lover, female lover, is a direct one. Issues that have been triggered by the parent for you to deal with, done out of love, however it may have looked or felt, are re-triggered and posed as a challenge to you by your mate. Whether that mate is male or female, it doesn't matter. It's going to work for you. It's going to be appropriate for you. And it's going to happen, more than likely, more than once. It's going to happen in relationships that do not develop past a certain point. It's going to be a vicious cycle from time to time where you will go from partner to partner, always finding the same frustration, always attracting the same weak man, always attracting the same frightened woman, always finding yourself and thinking, oh no, here I am again. When am I going to find true, equal love? Well, that's what this is all about. To solve the issue with the parents, you must forgive them and yourself. To solve the issue with your lovers, or lack of lovers, you must again forgive your parents and yourself. Now, we're simplifying because we're focusing on one aspect of this transformation. Obviously, you're going through many, many issues and in many, many areas of your life, all of which are vital in releasing you from the clutches of fear. But among them, and among the most important, is the dealing with intimate relationships. In the illusion of separation, of being locked inside this physical body, locked inside your skull, apparently unconnected to those who surround you and influence you, you grow lonely, you become ingrown, twisted, out of true, out of balance, out of harmony, because you're a singer in a choir and you can't hear the choir, and you wander from the tune. Now, as you go through this stage of growth, you begin to hear the choir and recognize the tune. Recognize that you are not disconnected and separate. But while you are, while you're locked inside yourself, you build defenses and barriers against your brothers and your sisters, against all of those other versions of you, dealing with all of the other varieties of fear that make the complete picture. It is as though you are part of the jigsaw puzzle, but a lost piece that's fallen on the floor. It has no relationship to anything. But when you find the rest of the picture and insert yourself into that, you find that you are part of a whole, and you stand back and you see that the whole makes sense. It only doesn't make sense when you're lying on the floor, discarded and separate. The pathway to love is through fear. You have created within yourself barricades to hide behind from each other, because to one extent or another, in one version or another, each and every one of you finds yourself to be unacceptable. You may think, well, I've got some good things going for me, and I've got a nice personality, and I'm pretty good looking, and I'm rich, and well-spoken, or well-educated, or amiable, and everyone's got something to say, well, that's not so bad. But what of the rest? That you won't reveal even to your best friend, because they might use it against you. The darkness inside. The deep self-doubts, all of the crimes against God and humanity of which you have accused yourself from earliest childhood, all of the ways that you are naughty and bad and undeserving, all of the ways that you are deceitful and ungrateful, cruel, uncaring. What awful people you all are. All of that disguise, all of that ingrown emotion, all because you feel separate and you can't trust what you can't identify with. Your experience has been that if you show vulnerability, you'll be hurt. The reality is there is no vulnerability, and you cannot be hurt if what? If you open yourself, if you trust, if you have faith, if you begin to treat yourself as though you were worth something. If you were to begin to give yourself a little recreation, a little fun, not the way you usually do it, feeling guilty, and almost a sense of relief when the fun is over and you can start to pay for it. You need to be kind to yourself if you are to be able to open to others, because you must find yourself to be deserving. You must begin to see the God in you, the Christ in you. Now, most of you have been on this path for enough time so that you've heard these truths and you found them within yourself and you agree with them, and from time to time you can even follow them. And when you think of it, you'll do something nice for yourself, and you'll try not to feel guilty about it later. And you're beginning to move toward a wider recognition. And if you meditate, and all of you dream, you are receiving information, sometimes in glorious technicolor, and more often very subtle and very quiet. But enough confirmation to keep you on the path. To say, well, yes, it's incredibly difficult and it's often painful, but I know somewhere inside, I can't tell you how I know, but I know that it's the only thing to do. Not the best thing, not the easiest thing, but the only thing. That's why I'm here. Because a bridge is being built between your outer consciousness and your inner consciousness. The ego mind and the spirit self. Enough of a bridge at the beginning, at least so you get a little feeling that, well, I'm doing the right thing even if I'm doing it badly. In the process of your own growth, you begin to have the courage to be vulnerable, to reach out, to open up, to risk. Now, because life is not a dirty trick, because you are here to graduate, because you have earned through many and many a life all of the credits that have led to this time of the final exams before graduation, you will not be let down. Your fears will not be confirmed by your risk, by your opening to vulnerability. Instead, you will find yourself rewarded. And that's even more frightening, because you don't expect to be rewarded. And when something good comes along, where in the past, in that arena of your life, nothing good has come along. Things have looked good, but then you've gotten into it, and old tapes started playing, and old reactions started, and you discovered you'd called to yourself somebody who's just like your father or your mother, and you back away, and you hide, and you think, well, I was right all along not to open up. And all of that is changed. And when you discover that that has changed, and light enters into your life, you stand back and you look at it from all angles, and you poke it and prod it, and you back off from it like a dog investigating a strange object that may suddenly bite it. You nose it and you run back. You want to retreat from it. There's nothing more frightening to you that all of your dreams and your prayers should finally be answered. Because you don't deserve that. Well, gradually you learn that you do deserve that, and those layers of undeserving feelings begin to be peeled away. And we want to say this to each and every one of you on this path. You have chosen out of your great courage to be willing to go through all of the fear and the darkness that has blocked you, because you know it's all going to be worth it, because you know you're going to be healed. And you have given the most precious gift to a plan and to a structure and to a goal you don't begin to understand out of pure faith. And that is rewarded. It is not snubbed. Your fears will never be confirmed. And to each of you I say, that relationship that has been so elusive, or that has been so troublesome, that has so embodied the duality of love and of hate, either that present relationship will be perfected, or you will find a relationship that will give you exactly what you truly love, need, and desire. Equality, love given and love returned in this life, and not a long time from now, because you deserve it. And because, my friends, this period in human history is difficult, how mildly can we put it? Galling, challenging. You are witnessing the beginnings of a polarity that's going to change society. You are pioneers of a group that daily grows larger, who are the founders of the era to come. And you are living amidst the thrashings and the death throes of a civilization, a way of life, a way of thinking that is over, but doesn't know it. And if it suspects, it doesn't want to be over. What is going on in your life, in your dealing with your own fear specters, with the dark side of your own personality, in the death and rebirth, in the phoenix process in your own life, is going on in humanity, is going on earth. And it's a tough time, ladies and gentlemen. And each and every one of you is here because you have a purpose to serve and to fulfill within the context of that time. And the first step is bringing yourself into wholeness to a point that you are capable of fulfilling that purpose. And not thrashing about in despair, in fear and confusion, as much of the world is and will be. So that you can give your gift, whatever it is, of love to those who surround you, to those who interact with you, whether it's on a small stage in your block, in your neighborhood, or on the stage of the world. The first step is to unite yourself. And that you're all doing. Not in lockstep, not according to the same identical timetable, but by and large, doing so at roughly the same pace, so that you may regard yourselves as comrades in this venture. While you're doing that, you're going to need your wits about you. You need to be uniting with others who are on the path for support, for mutual love and guidance. And you're going to need to be in a relationship, whether or not it is a relationship of marriage, of simply being together, whether it is heterosexual or homosexual, whether it is perhaps an intense friendship. Not all need to be romantic relationships, although the bulk of them will be. Because what is the energy that's changing you all and bringing this new age into being? Love. And love is going to be expressed in many ways, but for most of you it's also going to be expressed in the way of romance. And that awakening, by the way, is parenthetically, let us say, is reflected. You know, the love is being poured in for the last number of years. First with the Mary energy, now with the Christ energy. A lot of people don't know what to do with it. But you see the themes. And you know, all of these romance novels, well, they may be literary trash. But they fill a unscratched itch for romance, for love, for playing with love, for imagining love. And what does imagining do? It brings things into being. Brings things into being. There's a purpose, even for your popular diversions, that is far greater than the outward appearance may be. Take television soap operas. Well, they may be exaggerated and melodramatic, and they may creep on in a petty pace from day to day, but they help you to gain perspective by taking a godlike, objective view of tangled interrelationships, exaggerated so that they make the point more clearly for you. What we're saying by those two examples is that all of this reality is an interrelated, essential part of the structure. Everything in it. A lesson in every stone. So, you are uniting with many others. Some on a very intimate level, some on a level of mutual guidance, some on a level of forgiveness. Now, let us take your parents. If you've had trouble with your parents and there's separation and so forth, and as you learn to give forgiveness, and again, you have to forgive yourself first. You can't forgive anyone else until you are forgiven, until you recognize your own beauty. When you do that, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of your life is going to be a love feast with the previously disowned, disparaged, and despised father or mother. It means that you are going to be at peace regarding the issue. They may not even know that you've forgiven them or have the slightest notion that they have anything to be forgiven for. But you will know it. So don't expect that what this means is that everybody is going to be dancing round the maypole together, hugging each other. You're going to be doing that with more and more individuals, but that's not the point. The point is the forgiveness, the release that allows you to move forward. As you connect with each other, and you know the talents of the Spirit are many and they're growing as you grow, and you grow more psychically aware. You are instinctively aware as you meet someone, as you interact with someone at work or at home or at school, whether that person is for you or against you, whether that person is harmonious with your own energy. Sometimes you'll feel a surge of love and attraction for someone you've just met. You're touching beyond the immediate temporal vision of that individual, beyond the incarnation, into the whole, where you have traveled together over many, many lifetimes. And so what you need to see in the relationship that you're dealing with now, or that you will be dealing with soon, and we're speaking now of a love relationship, is the whole picture. And again, we say, stand back from this life. Because what takes place in this life, paraphrased, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl, has been taking place over a much larger canvas, over many, many lives. And that spirit that joins with your spirit in this life, you have engaged with many, many times. And there has been the period of meeting, the period of misunderstanding, the period of loss. Now the period of finding and keeping, uniting. And so when you see evidences of your father in that man you meet, or reminders of your mother in the woman that you meet, don't run and hide. Now you will not be stymied, you will not be blocked, you will not be horrified by that recognition. Rather, it will be a key to understanding. And what is the key for each of you? Again, it is willingness and the courage of your faith to take risks. We have indicated recently that just now, and for these several months, all of you on this path will be in one form or another dealing with sexually related issues, issues that are not always overtly and obviously sexual in this life, where so much, because of cultural considerations, has been buried. And so the roots of all of the issues that you deal with are buried in the sexual chakra, in the first chakra, which is the survival chakra, the root chakra, and in the third chakra, which, for the purposes of this matter, is dealing with dependencies. And what is dependency but an embracing of fear and a reliance upon your fear? That is going to be the process that releases you to love and be loved equally, wholly, unconditionally. You can't have one without the other. Many of you now, over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, have been feeling a tightening of the screws, a replay sometimes of old issues, what seems to be a slipping backward in your program of growth, dealing very often with sexual issues, but always, whether you recognize the sexuality in the issue or not, always dealing with these fundamental root fear issues. You have dealt with the branches of the tree of fear, and now you are down to the roots. When you have released the roots, or we should say as you are releasing the roots, so will come into your life, or if it is already in your life, will be redeemed and renewed, the relationship that is the relationship for you in this life, the perfect relationship. Does that mean never any cross words, never any arguments, never? No, of course not. You're still human beings. And during the course of this life, you're still going to be dealing with the issues that keep you from recognizing your wholeness. But to all intents and purposes, this is ending the duality in your life. This is ending that process. The introduction of the Christ energy was the go signal for ending the duality, the separation that is the illusion. Going to the wholeness that lets you recognize consciously, yes, I know, I remember, I am a whole and eternal being. I am not who I thought I was. And you are not who I thought you were. The uniting is not only uniting within yourself, but uniting with that other who completes the equation. You were not designed as human beings to be separate. No man is an island complete unto himself. And your wholeness, your completion of the web work that unites you with all other triune human beings, has its greatest focus, its first blossoming, in the love of your life, in the relationship with that one who enhances you, who gives, from whom you can receive, and to whom you can give with joy and with love. Out of that storehouse of love, you will find yourself capable of opening another step and another step and another step, welcoming more and more into the circle of your expanding love, until finally, not perhaps in this lifetime, but finally, all humanity on earth is united in that sacred spiritual webwork of love. And the promise of Christ will have been completely fulfilled. The message of love to you in this series of lives, since the birth and the death and the transcendence of Christ, is your story. That's the college you've been going to. You've gone to other schools too, and you are going to other schools and other aspects of your united, wider self. And all of those others who are not part of the Christian tradition also are coming to life and becoming united. Ultimately, we don't say, and we want to make this clear, we don't say Christianity is superior to Buddhism or Mohammedanism or any of the other isms. It is a different story. It is a lesson that is unique in and of itself and worthy of human study and adoption. And it's what you're focusing on now in this cluster of your lives. But we want to make a strong point of that, because though the context that we are dealing in our mission on this earth in this time, deals with the promise and the fulfillment of Christ, that doesn't negate anything else that's going on. But remember this, you are Christ. That's not blasphemy. That's God's truth. That was the reason for that visitation, that finally you would be able to recognize yourself. Each of you began this circle of lives in the company of Christ on earth. Now the circle is complete. Now you are accepting the gift, and you're not becoming like Christ, you are becoming Christ. Triune human being is the Christ human being. The Father's Son, the Mother's daughter. You are ending the duality in your heart, ending the anguish and the pain and the fear. There are many challenges ahead for humanity, but duality will not be among them. Love does conquer all. Fear is an illusion. You are discovering that in each of your separate lives. And now you are discovering that your lives are not separate. Now you are uniting. And the issues that have been brought to you in the guise of love relationships are falling away before you. And you are reaching out to each other. And you are finding, how many questions we've had. Am I going to find my true love, my twin soul, the one who was meant for me? Yes. Yes. For the first time in all of the lives that you've lived, we can say, yes, you are. It will either be in the relationship that you are in now, enhanced and fulfilled by the loving opening that goes on between two partners who are growing together, or because of the energy that changes within you as you welcome your own wholeness, you will call out to the other that has been waiting, to the other that has been growing to match your growth, and you will come together. There's a communication system going on here that's much subtler, much deeper, and much more far-ranging than the eligibles column. The issues between human beings in love are complex and difficult on the surface, but they melt away before your faith. Reveal yourself to those you love, and you will find that you're not unlovable, that there is nothing within you that cannot stand the light of day, that those who are meant to be together need to be clear, to be honest, to be open, to be loving. No more the guiles of love. No more pretending, no more lines. An honest, sweet communion of spirits. It is not unattainable. It is happening within you, and it will continue to happen, and it will justify this life and all of your lives. And finally, you will be united with your destiny. Now we're going to pause for a few minutes, and we'll return to answer your questions on this topic.
Plautus?
Yes.
Between my younger son and I, there's a real kinetic type energy, and I'm wondering if you see something of a different relationship in a previous life.
Yes, it was a romantic relationship, and you lost him. He was very adventurous, and he was strange, or thought to be strange, in that he seemed often to be listening within himself to things that others couldn't hear. He would go off by himself for periods of time, communing with nature and with himself. He listened to a different drummer, as the saying goes, and you sought to understand him, and you couldn't really understand him. All you knew was that you loved him and you accepted him as he was, but you longed for him to be able to fit in to your life, that he wouldn't be quite such a will-o'-the-wisp, and he wouldn't be thought quite so odd. You were a little bit embarrassed by his difference, yet the love was stronger than that. But the time came when he went away, and he didn't come back. He didn't come back. And you didn't understand why, and you couldn't find him, and there hadn't been anything between the two of you that would have accounted for his disappearance. You longed for him, and your longing and your loneliness was made worse by the mystery of his disappearance. No body was found, no evidence of foul play, only a sudden vanishing from your ken. This left a hole that needed to be filled. It clipped off the relationship. It put no period to that chapter. Now, in fact, when he left, something happened to his brain. Amnesia, I suppose, partly covers it. Fugue. He lost or discarded a part of his life and personality, persona. He went off, he rebuilt a life always of wandering, but never any more contact in that life with you. Your connection now as mother and son gives you, theoretically at least, and for a time, the kind of control that you so longed for in that life. The ability to influence and control behavior, movement, activity, to be able to be in charge. The sense of helplessness and impotence that was a part of that experience has found an answer in this. But here, of course, the lesson is release. And you will find that the love and the connection will thrive only through release of control. Yes?
Plautus, I've been in a relationship with a man for about 9 months, and I felt I'd finally come to terms with it, and that I was to love him unconditionally, no matter what happened. And I felt that a month ago that I had come to that resolution, and then this last week it was all turned upside down. And I'm just wondering if I'm supposed to be kept in the dark about this and just go with it, or if I'm supposed to be looking at something else and leaving him.
The image that we see is not of an ending, but of a leap. We would say to you, trust what appears to be untrustworthy. Do not withdraw your willingness, remembering always that a relationship can be whole only when both parties are whole within themselves. So it's not a matter of your giving away or giving up or surrendering anything. It is a test of your trust and of the uncoercive quality of love. The intensity of the test is great now. There will be ups and downs, but we would say flow with this, even if it is flowing through the rapids of the river over the next 2 months. Yes?
Plautus, I have a more general question. I'm curious to know how it will be for those of us who become parents after our quote-unquote wholeness. I'm curious to know what our children will be taking on. You know, it seems that we always take on our parents' fears, and I'm wondering how this will be different.
Yes. Most of the children, well, all of the children that are being born to you pioneers are children of the new age, are children who will be in the course of the earlier years of their life healing what remains of duality. You are giving birth to triune beings. And so as in your own wholeness, as your own wholeness will affect the manner in which you raise these children, the messages that you give them, and the degree of trust with which you face the issues of parenthood, you will find that the children themselves are going to cooperate in this enlightened approach because they are themselves enlightened.
It seems like I'm at a time where there's a chance for me to move into the void when it comes to my relationship with my family. And I was wondering, with that leap and taking on the relationship that I want to have a full relationship with, and also with my children, how my daughter plays a part. Is she playing a part with me of my mother, or is she just playing?
She is. Well, there's no cloning here, but there is a sharing of issues among those closely related, and she's come into your life specifically for this period in your life, for the lessons that it offers her and you. You will see evidences of yourself in her. She sees lessons in you that remind her of what she would rather not see. She is at a stage when her issues are at a subconscious level. You are bringing them into consciousness, and she resents it. You are setting the stage for her own drama. That is a gift that you are giving her. But as we indicated earlier, often these gifts are not accepted as being evidences of love. There is, in addition to all of the other realities, a continuity, a generational continuity, genetically based. And so father and son and father and daughter and mother and son and daughter and grandparents and so forth are also engaged in an ongoing dance with each other. We would say that the pressure here is not for divorcement between the two of you, but a testing of your own commitment to love and to wholeness, in which every temptation will be thrown into your path to abandon the new way and embrace the old, to compromise your understanding in an intellectual exercise aimed at reconciliation. Those will be the temptations, but you will not be fulfilling your part of the bargain if you are not true to yourself during the course of this, of the dynamics of that relationship. Yes?
Plautus has a son who's been away from his family, his mother, myself, and his sister for several years. Communications are open. Share that much, or to visit, to be together.
Yes.
And it's a great missing in love there, and disappointment. What do we...
Well, in the first place, let me say that it is not a lack of love, that the image that we see here is of the prodigal son, who really is the best loved and returns in love, but must go through this time of separation to identify himself. He felt weak, particularly in his own ability to create his own path. He felt sucked into a vortex that he felt would consume him. He is in this process of redefining himself. The separation is not a separation at the spirit level, only at the human flesh level. The connection is not severed between you or among you. The indication is a rapprochement, the prodigal son returning, not distant in time, perhaps yet this year. There will be unexpected events relating to him, to his circumstances, and to your own, that will provide energy to come together. There is a female who is much more the issue between the two of you than anything else. That matter will be solved. It would appear to be the mother. It would appear to be caught in memory. Yes, it is a drama based only partly on this life. The need for the separation transcends this incarnation. But we look at him and see not a lost soul at all, but a pioneer among you all. Don't despair at this. It is for high purpose and will be healed. Yes.
The events that took place this afternoon before I came here, and what I'm going to do with that on Tuesday of going back into domestic abuse course, the relationship that I'm in right now, after that takes place, I don't know if it's the right thing or not to do, but is that...
Yeah, it is an appropriate action to take, but it's going to lead to a change that so it begins as though it looks like it's being forced. The situation is being artificially created, but it's going to build a bridge of understanding. There needs to be limits set, a structure created that you may operate within. There is too much chaos now. It's too unstructured and too abusive for there to be progress in its present form. So there need to be a series of adjustments, preparations for breakthrough.
Does this mean that... Well, I guess the question was asked about, the woman asked about abandoning her relationship. I'm just feeling like I need to continue. I don't know if I'm going on false hope, but I don't know.
Well, in any event, you need to continue. Whether or not the relationship is destined for a long life or a short one, to end it now would be to truncate it and to miss the lessons and the opportunities inherent within it. So don't make judgments about where it's going, but take it moment by moment in trust as you are.
Last spring, when I asked about my relationship with my parents, you said they had given up on me. I was wondering where we stand with each other at this point, and whether I should go and see them soon, or kind of how to play this out.
We would feel that your own inclination is not to see them soon, and that it is not necessary to force that issue in each other's company. You are working through those ties that bind in your life now in separation from the parents, dealing with the same issues in other forms that allow you to turn the key in the lock and release that anger, that fear. It is, as we said earlier, it's not always necessary that sometimes the parents don't even know that forgiveness has been extended and accepted on the conscious level. We would feel that you are, in the way that you are moving now, making progress toward that goal that is intimately involved with other relationship matters, and that you will not heal one without the other. And that your focus now is in heart relationships not directly connected with the parents, but rooted in parental issues. And you solve one by solving the other.
It seems so far away from where I'm going.
When you release the issues between you, that does build a connection that will, to a degree, transcend differences in philosophy and approach and culture and likes and dislikes, to a degree. But it's not magic. You are still who you are, they are still who they are. What it does is take down the barricades and put up a bridge. Well, you can walk across that bridge and visit whenever you like. But it's still a bridge. It is not a oneness of that sort. So we would say don't build a goal, a picture of a goal in your mind as to what the relationship with your parents should be like when you have gone through this process. Because likely what you will do is create a goal that is impossible to attain, because that's the human way. You will create something that is so difficult for you that you will be able to abuse yourself at failing to reach it. And we're not speaking just to you, as all of the rest of you are aware. So we would say keep on keeping on. And this matter will succumb to your process.
Plautus, I've always felt a loss because I have not had a brother. And I would like to know, because I'm going to meet a twin, how I can bring him into my life or reality.
Well, not through persuasion, not through manipulation, not through argumentation, not through any overt process. Only through the spontaneous connection of two hearts once joined and since separated. There is, as you know, in you a desire to control matters from the safe seat of the intellect. It is necessary for you to release that need and that approach, to recognize that because you are in your heart giving yourself to your process, that the chief obstacle in your way is yourself. That you need to trust the process that you are on rather than succumb to the overwhelming desire to analyze it, take it apart, put it back together, and control it. Go into these matters such as this encounter wide-eyed and innocent. Only then will the process reward you, because you are not going to be rewarded for attempts to control out of the intellect. That's the pattern you wish to let go of.
I have a son who appears to be suffering much more in this life than what this life would normally have caused suffering. I'd like to know if from past lives what may be leading him to where he is, what part I do have in it now, and can help him.
When one looks upon something as without worth, the impetus is either to ignore it or destroy it. When one looks upon oneself as though one is without worth, a square peg in a round hole, twisted, the impulse, conscious or subconscious, is to destroy it, to destroy the life. This is one aspect of his path. It is at a subconscious level. But he draws to himself the tools of destruction and then plays with them as a toddler might play with the plunger of a dynamite device, in ignorance of the danger of his play, but with a subconscious desire that is working at betraying him. He is in this life dredging deeply into matters in surrounding lives that have convinced him that he has so sinned as to be beyond redemption. And we choose that language because that has been the context more than once that has convinced him of his own worthlessness. That is to say, a specifically religious context that has attacked his very worthiness on the grounds of his embracing the darkness, the devil, sin. That great curse of guilt weighs deeply upon him, feeding his belief that he must not survive. What we have here, however, is not a suicide in the making, but a being of amazing strength who has created for himself a convincing illusion, a mountain to conquer, an abyss to fly across. Your own ability to influence this process at this time is very, very limited on the human level. On the spirit level, your involvement is effective in sending unconditional love, in refraining from overt disapproval that underlines his sense of unworthiness. Give that love, give the support, and remember that it is your own faith that is being tested, and that is your share in this mutual issue. That you not attempt to control, even when your motives are of the highest. For the response will be the reverse of the desired response. This is not a lost soul. It is one in hiding, but not one who is doomed, not one who is fated to self-destruct, but who has set himself difficult goals, high standards. You're in a crisis period. He's in a crisis period now. And for the next period of time, month, 2 months or so. But we think that lessons that he is experiencing now and for the remainder of this year would appear to signal the beginning of a turnaround as the new year commences. Yes?
Plautus, I have a simple question, like 3 or 4 of the others. With my younger son, John, I'm willing to be in the role of a bit player or a major player as he faces his new drama. And I'm wondering if you'd care to comment which it might more tend to be.
What was the last?
Which it might tend to be more a major or minor role. Is it part of mine to participate, or is it more others that are around him?
For now, your role is pretty much quiescent, because what he is dealing with relates so closely to you. He is your inheritor. You are too similar in deep ways for you to have much impact of a positive nature in this time. That is going to switch also, but not for now, not for the time being. Your own changes are going to change the relationship as much as his changes. benign neglect is perhaps called for here. Even the most loving indication of concern will be resented. Here again, unconditional love is about the only answer. But you know, he's going to be very close to you. Once this season in the wilderness is past, events are going to occur that will draw you together, perhaps even reluctantly at first. But trust this process. There is another who is much more influential with him now, in a positive way. It is difficult for you to stand back, and that is testing you also.
Relationships with our parents and with romantic relationships, and yet the majority of questions here have had to do with us and our children. Why?
Well, as we've indicated, there is a continuity that it's not, although there are many unspoken questions that relate very much to romantic relationships. Relationships, well, that's an all-embracing sort of umbrella term. Again, you have to have the perspective to stand back from the life, because you may be talking about a son now, or a daughter now, or a parent now. But you are also talking about that lover, and that friend, and all of the other relationships that have gone into the culmination in this relationship. Remember how unique this life is. The relationship that has been elusive in the solving of the issues now will be solved. Now, in the past, relationships between parent and child have been governed by pretty rigid social conventions, by societies that were not mobile, where it was necessary to paper over differences so that those in the same household and living in the same community and likely to remain so could coexist. Now these conditions in this era are not that. And many final summations and coming to terms among spirits who have shared companionship in many different roles are being dealt with as parent and child. And so it doesn't matter, you know, the love has many faces. And relationships are expressed through many angles and many perspectives. But beyond this reality, there is no sex. There is no younger. There is no older. There are none of these superficial, societal, cultural, strictly human differences. And so the relationships that you work on, while they may come under one guise or another, you're dealing with fear and love when it comes right down to the basics of it. And so one approach is more suitable for one life than another. So we are going to draw this evening's reading to a close now, and we thank you all for your attention, and we bid you Godspeed as your journeys continue.
Thank you.